Here are the top stories for today, September 2nd, 2021. The country's vaccine czar says the government acted with urgency in procuring protective gear for health workers at the onset of the pandemic, disputing corruption allegations. Some 700,000 Pfizer vaccine doses arrived in the country and are expected to beef up vaccination as the surge in COVID-19 infections show no signs of abating yet. Easing commuter woes, rides for vaccinated authorized persons are extended until September 7. And the government looks at holding a multi-day elections next year. The Commission on Elections is also urged to set up more registration centers less than a month ahead of the September 30 deadline. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Malacanang said the government is still on track in its fight against COVID-19. Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque said the infection rate in the country is still within the projection and that stricter quarantine measures have helped control the further spread of COVID-19.
We are on track. Nakakabahala po talaga kasi mahigit 20,000 ang mga active cases at saka mga daily cases, mga 18,000. No? Pero yan naman po ay within the projection of faster. Now, ang kapalit po niya, kung di tayo nagsara, is talaga pong sandamukal na dapat ang nagkasakit ng COVID-19. Pero hindi po natin sinasabi na kinakailangan magpabayana. No? Hindi po. Napakataas pa rin po nitong numerong ito. At hindi pa rin sapat yung mga nababakunahan natin mga kababayan. So kinakailangan mask, hugas, iwas at bakuna pa rin.
The government responded with a sense of urgency at the start of the pandemic last year. This is according to National Task Force Against COVID-19 Chief Implementer and Vaccine Czar, Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr., amid issues on the purchase of COVID-19 supplies, including personal protective equipment for medical workers. Galvez stressed that the country needed to procure the necessary supplies at the onset of the pandemic for healthcare workers. He explained that medical-grade PPE sets composed of medical-grade coverall, gloves, head cover, shoe cover, goggles, N95 mask, surgical masks, and surgical gowns were procured at 1,700 pesos each when the market price was at the time cost over 3,500 pesos per set. He also said that they asked the procurement service of the Department of Budget and Management to look for supplies for distribution to various hospitals in the country. The PSDBM found a supplier from China that could meet the bulk requirement, and the task force did not waste time in finalizing the deal and arranged the shipment through military aircraft. Galvez said the purchase of the PPEs underwent emergency procurement and the payment was processed judiciously in observance of existing laws. Task Force Duty Chief Implementer and Testing Czar Secretary Vince Dizon also explained that the transfer of funds from the DOH to the PSDBM was part of the whole-of-government approach to efficiently respond to the pandemic. Another batch of Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccines arrived in the country last night. The jabs are intended in areas with a high number of COVID-19 infections. The Task Force Against COVID-19 said the 703,170 doses of government-procured Pfizer jabs will be given to Calabarzon, Central Luzon, Ilocos Region, Cagayan Valley, Central Visayas, Davao, Western Visayas, and Zamboanga. Areas that have not received the Pfizer vaccine would also receive the latest delivery.
As of September 1, 2021, ayon sa National Task Force Against COVID-19, meron na tayong 52,603,760 vaccines na dumating sa Pilipinas. Nasa 32,050,400 dito ang binili ng pamahalaan. Samantalang 3,617,100 ang na-procure ng mga lokal na pamahalaan at local government units. Nasa 13,297,120 ang COVAX donation, habang 3,639,140 ang donasyon galing sa ibang mga bansa.
The National Capital Region, or NCR, is on track to fully vaccinate more than 70% of its eligible population by October. MMDA Chair Ben-Hur Abalos Jr. said the Metro Manila Council targets to inoculate 72.56% of 9.8 million eligible population in the NCR. This is equivalent to over 7 million individuals. So far, the total number of fully vaccinated individuals is now at over 4.5 million individuals. Moreover, the Metro Manila Council is eyeing vaccine bubbles, or allowing fully vaccinated individuals to access facilities and services once the vaccination target is reached. Abalos also noted the importance of avoiding discrimination against the unvaccinated while enforcing the policies. The general public and children with comorbidities may soon be inoculated with COVID-19 vaccines by October. National Task Force Chief Implementer Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. said the country might have enough supply of vaccines next month. Galvez also assured that there will be equitable distribution of COVID-19 jabs in various regions and provinces nationwide. He said the primary consideration in the vaccine deployment is based on the area's number of unvaccinated individuals from their target eligible population. Over 300 million pesos have been released for the Special Risk Allowance, or SRA, of healthcare workers. This is explained by Presidential Spokesperson Harry Roque amid protest of healthcare workers over the delay in the release of the said fund. Roque said Malacanang respects the grievances aired by healthcare workers as well as their demand for Health Secretary Francisco Duque to resign.
Well, karapatan po ng lahat ng mamamayan na ipaharating ang kanilang damdamin, no? At siyempre po, yan ay protektado ng saligang batas. Pero yung ating tinatawag na special risk allowance, yan po ay nai-release na. No? Nagkaroon po ng kaunting delay dahil nga po dun sa pagsusumite ng mga pangalan sa hanay ng mga pribadong hospital. Kasi yung special risk allowance ay binigay po ng Kongreso sa lahat ng health workers, hindi lang po sa panggobyernong mga health workers.
Meanwhile, Roque reiterated that the president is leaving it up to Duque to step down over criticism that the DOH failed to meet the deadline on the release of their COVID-19 benefits.
Sa issue naman po ni Secretary Duque, nagsalita na naman po ang presidente. Nasa kamay na po ni Secretary Duque kung siya magbibitiw. Kung siya magbibitiw, ang sabi ng presidente, tatanggapin niya. Pero kung ang gusto ng ilang kanyang mga kritiko ay i-fire si Secretary Duque, sa mata niya, wala pong masamang ginagawa si Secretary Duque, pero kung ninanais si Secretary bumitiw, he will honor and respect that decision.
Still to come, free train rides for vaccinated APORs are extended until September 7. And 287 OFWs are back in the country from Qatar. Details ahead, this is the PNA Newsroom. The COVID-19 pandemic has greatly changed our lives for the worse. Lives and jobs were lost and economies reached a meltdown. Thanks to the arrival of safe and effective vaccines, we are one step closer to normalcy. It's time to do our part, get vaccinated for our safety and for our recovery.
You are there in that community, go there and have yourself vaccinated by any of the vaccines available. They are all potent, they are all effective.
I would like to appeal to all our kababayans, please get vaccinated against COVID-19 and be the government partner in preventing further spread of the disease. I encourage you to get vaccinated as soon as possible time. These vaccines are safe and they are the key to reopening our society. The need for international solidarity and cooperation cannot be made clearer than this pandemic because everyone is safe. No one is safe globally until everybody is safe.
Vaccines work. Two local government officials tested positive for COVID-19. Meanwhile, Davao City implements a strict quarantine protocol for returning overseas Filipino workers. The details from Marita Moahe.
Mayor Carmelo Lazatin Jr. of Angeles City, Pampanga has tested positive for COVID-19. Lazatin was picked up by the staff of Angeles City Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office from his residence following the release of the result of his RT-PCR test. He was taken to Sacred Heart Medical Center. Lazatin was fully vaccinated last June. Lazatin's chief advisor, Irish Calagua, said despite being in the hospital, the mayor will continue to run the city government. Zamboanga del Sur Governor Victor Yu also announced that he has tested positive for COVID-19. Yu said he will continue to discharge his duties as governor to ensure the provincial government's continuous service to its constituents. He also urged his constituents to continue to observe proper health protocols. And in Davao City, 32 repatriated overseas Filipino workers who earlier tested positive for COVID-19 have recovered from the disease and are reunited with their families. They are among the more than 2,000 OFWs who have arrived in the city since July. Under Davao's bubble wrap, all arriving passengers are being isolated in the hotels, undergo swab test, and undergo the mandatory 14-day quarantine period. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Marita Moahe.
Negros Oriental has extended its general community quarantine with heightened restrictions until September 7. This as the province recorded its first 4 cases of the Delta variant of COVID-19. The provincial capital said Governor Roel de Gamo is not expected to issue a new executive order or resolution on the extension, which the national government had ordered last week. Meanwhile, essential travelers as well as drivers and assistants of delivery trucks are no longer required to present an S-Pass for traveling. However, they will have to present their certificate of employment and a vaccination card that shows they are fully vaccinated or a negative RT-PCR test if unvaccinated. Butuan City also extended its GCQ with heightened restrictions until September 7. Mayor Ronnie Vicente Lagnada issued Executive Order number 38-A on Tuesday, mandating the extension of the stricter GCQ in the city. Under the EO, residents are mandated to use the color-coded quarantine passes, while the curfew and liquor ban will continue to take effect. Individuals traveling from Manila to Butuan will be required to present negative RT-PCR tests. Fully vaccinated individuals can also present their domestic vaccination card upon entry to the city. Free train rides for those vaccinated against COVID-19 will continue for the rest of the first week of September. The Department of Transportation said vaccinated authorized persons outside of residence or APORs will be able to continue enjoying the free ride program until September 7. In a Facebook post, the MRT3 said the free ride program continues with the extension of the MECQ in Metro Manila. To avail of the program, vaccinated passengers must present their vaccination card to security personnel with identification providing their status as APOR. These include a certificate of employment, a valid ID or government-issued ID, Professional Regulation Commission or PRC ID or company identification. Meanwhile, the first batch of trains for the MRT-7 project is set to arrive in the country from South Korea next week, even as work continues for the completion of the much-awaited mass rail project. The trains, which consist of 6 cars or 2 train sets procured from South Korea's Hyundai Rotem, have cleared inspections and factory acceptance testing. San Miguel Corporation President Ramon Ang welcomed the arrival of the trains, saying that this shows that the job of nation building continues despite uncertainties brought by the pandemic. Ang said more trains are set to arrive in the following months until all 108 cars or 36 train sets the company acquired are delivered. The first test run of the project is set for December 2022. The second repatriation flight from Qatar organized by the Department of Foreign Affairs landed at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport yesterday, bringing home 287 overseas Filipinos, including 4 pregnant women. The Department of Foreign Affairs and the Philippine Embassy in Doha led the repatriation efforts. The repatriates underwent the appropriate medical protocols and quarantine. Apart from repatriations, the DFA also continues to pursue President Duterte's legacy policies related to the Global Compact Migration, or GCM, and push for reforms against the kafala, or sponsorship system for migrant workers. The DFA expressed hope that they would see the results of the GCM, as well as reforms that lead to better working conditions and improved welfare for migrants, particularly the Middle East countries. Moving on to business, at least 2 hyperscale companies from the United States and China are set to move in the Philippines this year. Trade Undersecretary Seferino Rodolfo said these firms are still studying the Philippine green energy market as a main driver, as well as the data privacy regulatory framework in the country. Aside from these 2 companies, many hyperscalers are eyeing to put up their infrastructure in the country. Hyperscalers are firms that offer scalable data storage services. Examples of these companies include Alibaba Cloud, Amazon, Facebook, Google, and Microsoft, among others. DTI Secretary Ramon Lopez said the Philippines is a prime location for hyperscalers as the country tops in social media and internet usage worldwide. Up next, Zamboanga City welcomes 2 Olympic medalists. And a mother and his son with special needs get a new home thanks to TESTA trainees in Iloilo. Back after a quick break, stay with the PNA Newsroom. You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. The government is preparing a proposal to hold the 2022 national and local elections in a span of several days amid the prevailing threat of the public health crisis. National Task Force Against COVID-19 Chief Implementer Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. said this prevents the gathering of thousands of people in election precincts, which could increase the risk of COVID-19 transmission. The Interagency Task Force, the NTF, and the Commission on Elections are considering various options for the conduct of the upcoming May 2022 polls with careful consideration of health and safety protocols during the pandemic. Also among the plans is to conduct the voting in phases by geographical or island groupings. Meanwhile, lawmakers adopted a resolution urging the COMELEC to establish additional satellite registration centers nationwide and overseas. House Resolution 2168 cites that the pandemic has become a hindrance to achieve the projected 4 million new registrants, as well as the reactivation of the registration of another 1 million voters. The House also enjoins the citizenry, especially the youth and first-time voters, to register as soon as possible and reminds them about the importance of exercising their right to vote. Eric Alvia, Secretary General of the National Movement for Free Elections, is supporting the call to extend the voter registration deadline for the 2022 polls in areas under enhanced community quarantine and modified ECQ. In sports, the city government of Zamboanga threw a hero's welcome for 2020 Tokyo Olympic medalists Heidelin Diaz and Yumir Felix Marshal. Diaz, gold medalist in the women's 55-kilogram category for weightlifting, and Marshal, bronze medalist in the men's boxing middleweight division, arrived in the city aboard a Philippine Air Force plane that landed at the Edwin Andrews Air Base. A motorcade immediately followed them to the RT Lim Boulevard, where the two Olympians unveiled their markers. They later proceeded to City Hall for a short program where Diaz received 2.5 million pesos, while Marshal 1 million as incentive from the local government. Marshal thanked everyone for the love and support they received while they were competing in the Tokyo Olympics. Meanwhile, Chooks to Go posthumously honored the Philippines' first Olympic medalist, Teofilo Ildefonso. Chooks to Go President Ronald Mascareñas rewarded Ildefonso's family with a monthly supply of 100 oven-roasted chickens. Raul Ildefonso, Teofilo's great-great-grandson, received the reward on behalf of the clan, which is residing in Pidig, Ilocos Norte. Teofilo put the Philippines in the all-time medal tally after winning a bronze medal in the 200-meter breaststroke swimming event in the 1928 Amsterdam Olympics. He later on won a bronze in 1932 in Los Angeles, making him the first Filipino to capture multiple medals. Ildefonso was also a member of the Philippine Scouts in World War II and died after enduring the Bataan Death March. Here's news on the Tokyo Paralympics. Gary Begino failed to advance to the medal round of the men's 400-meter freestyle event held at the Tokyo Aquatic Center on Thursday morning. The budding para-swimmer finished sixth and dead last at 5 minutes and 52.28 seconds. He was 46 seconds behind top seed Talison Henrique Glock of Brazil, who registered 5 minutes and 6.28 seconds. Begino earlier failed to make it to the medal rounds of the individual medley and butterfly events. Trainees of the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority have given a 74-year-old widow and her 49-year-old mentally challenged son in Panay Province a new home. TESDA Information Officer Maria Leonora Estanque said Elvira Pama and her son Richard of Barangay Buenavista, Pasig City, received their new house on August 27 as part of TESDA's 27th anniversary celebration. The construction of the housing unit is part of the Project Kalinga of the TESDA Mayan Initiative for Shelter and Livelihood Assistance for Sustainable Development. The trainees, in turn, received help from the Philippine Army and the Air Force in the construction. Mayor Steven Palmares assured continued support to the less fortunate members of their community with the support of TESDA. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. The country's vaccine czar says the government acted with urgency in procuring protective gear for health workers at the onset of the pandemic, disputing corruption allegations. Some 700,000 Pfizer vaccine doses arrive in the country and are expected to beef up vaccination as the surge in COVID-19 infections show no signs of abating yet. Easing commuter woes, rides for vaccinated authorized persons are extended until September 7. And the government looks at holding a multi-day elections next year. The Commission on Elections is also urged to set up more registration centers less than a month ahead of the September 30 deadline. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear your face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day. Stay safe, everyone.